Real people in real estate. Today we get to talk to Jeff Allen, who is a full-time professional but also a real estate investor, and discover what his journey has been like in real estate. So Jeff, tell us about your very first job and how did that parlay into your professional job now as an engineer?
Okay, so my first job was working on a farm not too far from here. I started picking strawberries at
Oh,
fifth grade.
that's good hard work.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think what that did, I worked through college then actually, and it developed a hardworking, farming mentality where, you show up, you do a good job. Then I got my degree and started an engineering career, of which next month I'll be at the same company for 30 years as
Wow.
well. So I've really only had
Congratulations.
2 jobs my entire life.
Okay.
Farming, I guess, and then engineering.
Awesome. So at what point did you get involved in real estate? How did that come about?
So had some friends that were doing some real estate, and somehow a guy got me onto a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It's
I
a
read
classic.
that. It
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
And I started researching, doing a few things, and then I reached out to one of my good friends who had some real estate Trent, and he had a few houses because he kind of stumbled into it too. And we were talking through a few things, and I was listening to podcasts, reading books, like just gathering all the information,
Absorbing the
absorbing
information.
everything.
Yep.
And I
Okay.
was wondering, am I doing any analysis paralysis as an engineer? I'm very analytical,
Yep.
and steps are
Details?
details.
Yeah.
So it was during COVID then where I was like, okay, I got to pull the trigger, and got this place behind us here. It was,
Okay. So this was your very
this is
first
my very
investment.
first investment, right?
Okay. All right.
Fortunately, it was not too competitive yet. It was early on during COVID.
Okay.
So you didn't know what's the risk, are we
Right.
going to have tenants? And so we did an escalation clause too to just go up. So, and I didn't have any contingencies, even though I was going to get some debt on the property.
Okay.
So I like to say I thought it was a bunt single that turned into a stolen second base and now a stolen third base, because as you know, with real estate, if you buy it right and just hold, it just continues to do well for you.
Right. It continues to grow and prosper, and then it kind of becomes addictive, right?
It
Like
does.
it's a little bit like, oh, this was great. Maybe I should do this and do it twice as big, right?
Right.
So you bought this one, and then it went well, and then what happened?
So the very next property was a 52-unit apartment complex.
Wait. So you went from 1 unit to 52 units.
Correct.
Just you or
No.
you?
So there was a couple of us in church that were joined together,
Okay.
and we put an offer in. It's in Hummelstown.
Okay. How many people were in on the
3 of
partnership?
us.
3 people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we had a verbal agreement,
Mhm.
and on a Monday, it was to be managed by a cousin who was kind of managing to own it. So they had kind of owned, and Wednesday it fell through. It was like, oh, they backed out. They want a broker, and we're going to lose it.
Okay.
Friday, Saturday, the world shut down. COVID, so it was ahead of it.
Okay.
Come back, fast forward 6-8 months, they kept us out of there. They come back to us, hey, are you guys still interested?
Okay.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
So then it was me and business partner Trent got together because the other guy was moved on, and we raised some capital then at that point from
Okay.
some friends and family,
Sure.
and put that offer on, and when you sign and your heart starts beating,
Right. I can imagine, especially if you're going from 1 to 52, even if you have one partner, right? It's just you and a partner
Right.
plus capital raised from
Right.
other investors. Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot to put on the line, but you probably felt really certain that this was a good deal and it was going to lead to bigger and better things.
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay. So what happened with this 52 unit?
So I was confident in my underwriting skills. So we had a property manager, we ran that. And short story, we went 15 months and the market, as you know, really hockey sticked.
Yep.
So we had a decision to make, and we had some guys approach us about selling it. And we weren't really ready. We actually had a 10-year fixed interest rate on that.
Okay. With a prepayment penalty?
No prepayment
Oh,
penalty
okay.
at all.
All right.
Yeah.
Good job
I know how to negotiate.
All right. Nice.
In fact, they wanted to charge us, I think it was $18,600 for their fee,
Origination
the
fee?
origination fee. And I was like, I don't think so. Well, we got it down, I think another $9,000 then
Okay,
off that originally too.
great.
So we went full cycle then on that, and we bought it for 3.4, we sold it for 5.5 million. So
Excellent.
the LLC did quite well.
Okay.
Our investors got a 2.14 equity multiplier. And, you know, we were like, okay, we're moving on. We got a lot of counsel and advice. We reached out to some mentors and things like, it's a big deal. How do you 1031 exchange? How do you offset some taxes? You know, is it the right thing to do?
Sure.
So, yeah.
Okay. So when you sold it, did you do a 1031?
We did
or-
not.
Okay.
We would have maybe had to do some drop and swap and
Yeah.
things like that.
Okay.
So it was just clean. So we kind of, you know, personally, Trent and I both kind of then made some limited partner investments and some syndications. Then they did a cost segregation study, which brought, you know, a lot of the depreciation forward to be able to offset
Okay.
some of those taxes and things too.
Okay. So you sold the property, but then you purchased some other investments, did a cost segregation study, and used the passive losses from the replacement properties basically to offset all the gains that you
Lot of it.
had for the big
Correct.
52 unit sale. Okay.
Correct.
Makes a lot of sense so that you can keep more of your dollars and
Exactly.
continue to invest. Okay.
It was the first time I realized people will tell you, you know, taxes are a #1 deterrent of wealth. And you can understand that, and from a kind of an outside perspective, but from that, living it was the first time like, wow, this is real.
Right.
If you can avoid that, because you're helping the economy by putting more money into housing and things, you're
Exactly.
offsetting those taxes. So
That's
yeah.
why they have the 1031 exchange,
Right.
because this principle that if the money goes to the government, it's not reinvesting into the communities, but if you're keeping that, you're motivated to reinvest
Right.
it, and that of course is good for the local area and the housing stock as well.
Right.
So for the investments that you made after that point, what were those like, and where are you at as far as the real estate investments that you currently have?
Yeah, so currently I just have 2 single family properties by myself, this one here and another one in New Cumberland. And then partnered with Trent on a commercial mixed use building in Hanover. We've got, you know, apartments, we have some industrial garages there and some commercial spaces that we've done there. And then we have another commercial mixed use in Gettysburg where we raise capital from, once again, some friends and family
Right.
to purchase that one as well.
So those friends and family who invested in the first deal were probably pretty happy to come back and put money in again.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. It's really important you do a good job the first time,
Exactly.
then you earn yourself that reputation, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting because oftentimes I have investors who look at the Pennsylvania, Maryland region, you know, where we're active, and they say, well, it's not really a market where you can do syndications. And while there's truth to the fact that there may be other markets that are more cash flow heavy,
Sure.
I think there's still a very strong play for appreciation, and does provide the type of returns that a syndicated investment and investor is usually looking for, right?
Right.
Because for most investors in a syndication, they could do one in Pennsylvania or they could very easily do one in Texas, right?
Yes.
So for them, it's kind of a comparison of like, okay, if I buy in Pennsylvania versus Texas, all things being equal, who's giving me the better return, right?
Right.
But the interesting thing that we have seen too is that while some of the Sun Belt areas, like they went way up in price, now subsequently they have come way down
Right.
as well. And, you know, you contrast that with a lot of the Northeast, there's much more consistency in this area than there has been in a lot of the Sun Belt.
Right.
So, you know, pluses and minuses to every location.
I
right?
agree. And I think our area here, because Harrisburg being the capital of Pennsylvania, it has a stabilizing effect, you know, of our capital region where we just slow and steady, it seems like all the time. We don't have enormous growth and enormous drops, say like Phoenix
Right.
in Arizona would, you know, where they could triple or quadruple and then they just, you know, lose 6x, you know. But here we're basically a 2 to 3% every year. It seems like steady growth.
Yep. Just the tortoise in the hare, right?
Right.
The tortoise always wins the race because you just stay slow and steady, right?
Right.
So it's easy to get caught up in the hype, but for a lot of investors, it's like, oh, look at this market and these returns. But you have to really look at it over the long term
Yeah.
in order to make sure that what you're getting is really a good investment.
Sure.
So, plus also being from this area, there's something to be said for being able to go out and actually look at your investment,
Right.
right?
Right.
So,
Can't
yeah,
do that, some other far away.
right.
That's taking a plane.
Yep. So, have you brought in other members of your family? Is your wife involved? What has that looked like?
Wife is very supportive.
Okay.
Not too much involvement day to day, but very supportive in what we do.
Okay.
We homeschooled our children. So my second daughter was like, this is pretty interesting what dad's doing. So it was about when she was a junior, senior. So we tailored definitely her senior year towards learning some things specifically like, hey, what's insurance, calculating, square footages, if I need to repaint a room or do flooring and those type of things. So she got kind of jumped into it both feet and decided, I think I want to do this. And her goal then was to buy her first property before she turned 19.
Okay.
And I think if I had it 5, 6 years before that time, had I not listened to podcasts, read books, and understand kind of an entrepreneurial mindset, I've been like, I don't know, you got to go to college.
Right.
But I had a different mindset, and I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, if this is what you want to do, so we started looking and things, and be able to see around and putting offers and looking at stuff, and we ended up one came back on the market, and jumped on it, put in the offer, and got it. So I was like, listen, I allotted each of the children, some for college. Like, I'll help you with a down payment.
Okay.
I'll tell you one neat trick though is
Yeah.
if you've great credit, what we did was we opened a credit card up and put our daughter's name on it. So it was our account. And when she went to qualify for this loan with the broker,
Sure.
she had an 830 credit score.
Oh, wow.
Somewhere like that, just
Okay.
about. And the broker's like, I've never seen an 18-year-old have this great a credit. Well, if you've good credit, it actually imbued and gave our credit to her.
Sure. Okay.
So with that, we were able to purchase a triplex, and she was going to put the sweat equity into it because one was vacant and had two there. And of course, there's things come up, and you have to deal with some problems. But if you solve some of the hard problems, you're able to, do well with the property.
Right.
So
So you helped her get through those problems that maybe some 18, 19-year-olds might have a challenge with,
Mhm.
right? But essentially, this was like her going to college,
yes,
right?
yep,
Yeah. So, yeah. So she got into that investment, and you probably were on the loan for it
correct,
then, right?
correct,
'Cause,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
for
quite an
her to
issue.
get at that. So yes, I am on the loan, but
Yeah.
she takes care of everything. She's now married, and they do all the work, and
Yep.
they renovate and they fix up. I'll help with some tenants sometimes. Personality is a little better, for that. I like talking to people.
Right. Okay. That's great. So it's interesting now you have a professional W-2 job, right? With
Yes.
a pretty big company. Have you gotten to the point where you've thought about leaving that and becoming a full-time real estate investor? What's your forward plan look like?
Yeah, that creeps into your mind. Then you have all these other things. Well, what about insurance? What about this?
Oh,
Do I have
yes.
enough?
Yeah.
And a lot of times you don't want to go too early. So I think that is definitely in the future,
Mhm.
to be able to be a full-time investor, and handle some of these things. I like what I do. There's just some days you're like, I'd like to have more free time, especially just since 3 weeks ago, I became a grandfather for the
Right.
first time. So
Congratulations.
that's super
That's awesome.
exciting.
Yeah.
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 And, so it's like, it's not like I dread I've been there for 30 years. I love, I can talk about, certain things,
Yep.
maybe to some other people's chagrin, but, yeah, I think that's in the future at some
Yeah.
point here.
The insurance is a really big question for a
Yeah.
lot of independently employed people. That could be a challenge, but if you could work through that, then certainly you have the knowledge base to be able to continue to create
Right.
more real estate investments and prosper in that realm, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's very interesting how you said you had this mindset change from like, you grow up and you go to college and you get a good, nice, stable job, right?
Right.
The whole principle of like what he talks about in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, whereas you take that and maybe change that to an entrepreneurial mindset.
Hmm.
And what I've actually been thinking about is if you can teach that to the younger generation, they could take that into a lot of different professions, right?
Yes.
It doesn't
Yes.
have to be real estate,
Right.
but if they're in healthcare and they have an entrepreneurial mindset, there's so much of the ability to create, in a different way
Right.
prosperity, right? Rather than just working for somebody else at a big company. So I think that's an important lesson for the next generation, whether or not it's real estate or something else,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, my daughter that real estate, she was working for another lady for cleaning,
Mhm.
and things worked out. She kind of took over and and then started a cleaning company, and was doing some cleaning of short-term rentals and
Okay.
houses and things. So it wasn't just her mindset wasn't just real estate.
Mhm.
It flipped a switch in her
Yeah.
for the entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
spirit.
Right. That's one of the best things you could teach them. So
Right.
at what was she, 20 years old, she became a business owner?
Yeah,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So as far as your real estate investments, you've done a lot of apartment investing and you
Mhm.
mentioned that you've bought some mixed use properties as well. What would you say is really like your favorite category and how do you look at the mixed use versus just straight apartments and
Yeah.
the returns there?
Um, as you go through the industry, you hear negative stories about different things, and we can surely tell stories about. I find that I'm slowly leaning more towards the commercial because it's more hands off, and they're professional businesses that are leasing the spaces, so they don't have, I'll call it, the neediness sometimes that a tenant would be, or
Sure.
going through some of the, as people would say, toilets, termites, and
Yeah.
forget the other T.
Right. Trash,
Trash.
toilets, termites, is that
Yeah, I
right?
think it
Yeah.
is that, yes.
Yeah. So, yes, there's something to be said for having somebody who's a little more sophisticated.
Yeah.
Usually that's what you get with a commercial tenant,
Hmm.
and also someone who's, maybe not so emotional,
Right.
because when
Yes.
you have an apartment tenant, it's like, "This is my home," and it's a very emotional thing, right? When you're
Right.
dealing with, oh, what if you had to evict someone
Right.
and this is their home, right? So it's a little bit of a different mentality for sure.
And I will say that after we sold that apartment complex, I told you we went into some syndications. The way I looked at that is I want to diversify my some of my capital geographically, so across the United States, um, asset different assets. So
Sure.
we have a golf course and wedding venue, multifamily, car wash fund, a mobile home park fund. So I had different assets,
Okay.
and then also different type of exits, or what do you say? So some will pay a little more preferred cash distributions. Some of them are a little more longer term hold and then cash out refi. So I wanted the diversification between all those. So I wasn't just, all the capital, say in Central PA or something like
Right.
that.
That's very smart. So, out of those syndication investments that you made with other people, which one would you say is like really the home run, or has there been like any real duds?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's hard to say because all of it's hands off, which is kind of nice.
mhm,
So I don't have to be in the grind.
mhm.
And with the market cycle, we've had, some of the multifamily hasn't performed per the, the uh,
Pro
the
forma.
pro forma.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But self-storage is pretty, and actually industrial. I didn't mention that, but
Okay.
that industrial, they take way less they have way less debt on it, so it's a higher cash flow. But it just depends on somebody's buy box. Like, what are you looking for? Because somebody could, have a great W-2 job bringing in a lot, and it's like, I don't need it now. I want it for the future. So
Sure.
I need to hone in on what's good for me,
Hmm.
and then look in that direction
Yeah.
to how's it going to benefit me
Right. Because
through
for
that.
some people, cash flow now is better. For other people, appreciation later is
Right.
better.
Or
But
tax advantages,
yeah,
depending on, because that can be a big factor too.
sure. And sometimes it just takes getting involved in different investments until you figure out like, hey, I really like this,
Yeah.
don't like that one so much, right?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
there's some back and forth there. So is there any advice that you would offer to other investors coming into the space, kind of like you did in the year 2020, right? Where you'd
Yeah.
be like, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm a little bit concerned about getting in. What would you offer up to those types of folks?
So the first thing I would say is take action.
Okay.
Now, that is easy to say,
Hmm.
it's hard to do because, well, where do I start? Do I need an LLC? Can I just buy this? I don't know everything. Well, what if this happened? There's always going to be questions. And from my perspective, I like to get information and then parse through it and this. So don't allow that to hinder you, right? Seek out, a mentor, read some books, listen to podcasts, but take action because, if you don't, I want to coin the phrase, real estate's a get rich quick scheme. It only takes 10 years so you can be fairly wealthy that an entire lifetime of work, 40 years in a W-2 would take,
Yeah.
only 10 years in real estate.
Right. So you can shorten that up a whole lot just by taking action.
Yes, ma'am.
But in your case, I would say that was great. You took action to buy the first one, right?
Yes.
And then you took action to buy the 52 unit.
Yes.
But with something that big, maybe good to get some advice
Absolutely.
from mentors. And I'm sure that you did that along the
Yes,
way.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't, if you start, take action, on a smaller property, because if you have heirs or something happens, it's smaller mistake.
Smaller mistake, yeah.
And you jump into something big without the background and I'll call it the foundation, right? As a structural engineer, we got to make sure the foundation's good because all the loads come through and you got to make sure that's solid. So have a good foundation. And then, you won't have to make those errors, or if there's error, you'll learn from them and they're smaller
Yep.
at the beginning.
Yeah, makes a whole lot of sense. So there you have it, the structural engineer who was able to lay a good foundation in real estate and is building wealth for the long term for himself and for future generations. So if you're looking for real estate investments to grow in real estate investments in Pennsylvania or Maryland, please reach out to us. We're always happy to help. And I hope you have enjoyed Jeff Allen's story of real estate investing.